Anticipate what the states will do. To talk more about this and the options for the president is Aaron David Miller, former State Department Middle East advisor and senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Good morning, and thanks so much for being on our program.
Thanks for having me, Marcia.
So let's discuss what the options are for Joe Biden. None of them seem good.
No, I think the administration's in a bind, and we're in this situation because of a dysfunctional marriage between Iranian risk aversion and the risk readiness and the administration's risk aversion. 160 attacks since October on American forces on bases in Iraq and Syria, not to mention what's happening in the Red Sea with the Houthis' attacks on shipping. A fraction of responses by the United States. I think the administration has three options. None of them are great. Number one, continue to strike pro-Iranian militias. They can perhaps identify the militia group responsible for the drone attack. That's number one in Iraq and Syria. Number two, hit Iranian assets, but not directly in Iran. They could hit IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters in Damascus, or training facilities in which the IRGC is involved, or they could take out Iranian fast boats in the Gulf. And the third option, which is, I think, the most risky, and the one I think the administration will probably avoid, is a direct attack on Iran itself. Proportionate, perhaps, but directly against the Iranian mainland. So those are the three options. I'm betting on somewhere between number one and two.
Okay. And to your third point, which, of course, you call the most risky, that is something that Kirby ruled out yesterday. He said they don't want to go into Iran. They, in fact, don't even want to wage war with Iran. So how do you respond without escalating the conflict?
Well, I think you have to find a response. And look, the Iranians may be risk ready in terms of supporting their proxies and attacks on any number of American interests in the region, but they don't want a major confrontation with the United States. We've got at least one carrier strike group deployed in and around Djibouti, and the president would be prepared, as he had several months ago, to deploy another. They have 200 strike aircraft. The asymmetry of power between the U.S. and Iran is formidable. So I think number one or two, and I'm afraid, given the fact that the Middle East is so unsettled and unstable, we're not yet on the cusp of what I would call a major regional war. But there's no solution to this problem. That's the real issue. We have a strategic problem with Iran on so many issues, but we do not have a strategic solution to that problem. I'm afraid as long as the Israel-Gaza war goes on, and even after that, it's a question of risk management. And that's what the administration has to calculate.
And what are the political implications for Biden at home in an election year?
You know, wars have never been kind to American presidents, contrary to the theory that they lead to an aggrandizement of presidential power and election success. I mean, frankly, the last war that was kind to American president was World War II, in which the United States emerged in an unrivaled and periled situation, stronger at home with more influence abroad. But the wars in Asia, even the first Persian Gulf War, which the Bush 41 administration, I worked for his Secretary of State, James Baker, waged extremely well. Limited American casualties, didn't help Mr. Bush, who was defeated by Bill Clinton in the fall of 1992. So I think, given the Republican Party, the America First sort of trope, and the presumptive Republican nominees' notion that America should somehow withdraw from the world, that a major conflict, which cannot be resolved quickly, and war with Iran would not be resolved quickly, is not going to be an asset for Mr. Biden. It's going to be a serious liability, particularly among young voters.
So whatever Biden decides to do, does he have to act quickly?
You know, he'll act with great deliberation, time and place of our choosing. That's the administration mantra. It makes sense. We don't want to act in haste. The administration doesn't want to act in haste. They're not trying to determine, I suspect, number one, who is responsible for this attack? What are the target sets of opportunities in order to respond? And then they have to make a decision. Are they going to follow the normal course, which is to respond against pro-Iranian militias, but not Iranians in Iraq and Syria? Or do they do something different, given the fact that along with the two Navy SEALs who were killed last month or earlier this month in a boarding operation in the Red Sea, you now have 3 Americans killed, which is the first since the October 7 conflict began. They have to make a decision. Are they going to strike Iranian assets, but not in Iran, as I identified, or will they go with the traditional conventional response against pro-Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria? That's the decision they have to make.
Aaron David Miller is a former State Department Middle East advisor and senior fellow with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us today. Appreciate your analysis.